Picture this. Right now, as you're watching this video, there are over 6 million wild pigs tearing through American farmland. They're destroying crops worth billions of dollars, spreading diseases that could wipe out entire livestock populations, and multiplying so fast that traditional hunting can't even keep up. But here's what nobody saw coming. The United States government has just revealed the only proven methods that actually work against this invasion. And what they found is going to shock you. These aren't the methods you've heard about from your hunting buddies. These are scientific, coordinated approaches that have already eliminated feral swine from 12 entire states. And if you think this doesn't affect you, think again. The $2.5 billion in annual damage these animals cause. That's hitting your wallet every single time you buy groceries. Before we dive deep into these game-changing control methods, do me a favor. If you find this information valuable, smash that like button right now. It helps this channel reach more people who need to know about this national crisis. And hey, subscribe and hit that notification bell because we're covering critical issues that mainstream media won't touch. Your support keeps this content coming. All right, let's get into it. So let's start with the elephant in the room, or should I say, the pig in the field. Feral swine weren't always an American problem. These animals were first brought to the United States way back in the 1500s by European explorers and settlers as a food source. Back then, free-range livestock management was common, and when some pigs escaped, nobody thought much of it. Fast forward to the 1900s, and things got worse. People started importing Eurasian wild boars, also called Russian wild boars, specifically for sport hunting. Sounds fun, right? Well, what we have today is the nightmare offspring of those escaped domestic pigs mixed with those Eurasian wild boars. Here's where it gets absolutely wild. Between 1900 and 1990, the feral swine population in America stayed relatively stable. We're talking about 500,000 to 2 million animals spread across 18 to 21 states. Not great, but manageable. But then something changed. These pigs started expanding their territory like they were on a mission. Today, according to the National Feral Swine Mapping System, we've got established populations in over 35 states. The population estimates put it at over 6 million, possibly as high as 9 million. That's more than the entire human population of some states. Let me break down why this matters to you personally. The USDA's Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service, or APHIS, has been tracking the damage, and the numbers are staggering. We're looking at $2.5 billion in damage and control costs every single year in the agricultural sector alone. Texas, the state with the highest feral hog population, loses nearly $90 million annually just in crop damage. But it's not just Texas. A comprehensive survey across 11 states found that corn takes the biggest hit at $62 million in losses, followed by peanuts at $41 million and wheat at $28 million. Think about what that means. Farmers are losing entire fields of crops. They're spending thousands of dollars on fencing that these pigs just tear right through. They're dealing with damaged irrigation systems, destroyed pastures, and even livestock losses because, yes, feral swine have been documented killing calves and lambs during birthing. One farmer in Georgia estimated that feral pigs have cost his operation over $100,000 a year for the past 15 years. Let that sink in. That's $1.5 million from just one farm. But the economic damage is only part of the story. These animals are disease vectors. And this is where things get truly terrifying. Feral swine can carry over 30 dangerous diseases, including pseudo-rabies, which is fatal to dogs and cats and poses risks to domestic pigs. They carry swine brucellosis, E. coli, toxoplasmosis, and trichinosis. And here's the real kicker: African swine fever. Now, ASF has never been found in the United States, and there's no treatment or vaccine for it. But it's ravaging pig populations in other parts of the world, causing billions in losses. If it reaches our feral swine population, which currently exists in 43% of swine-producing counties, we're looking at a potential outbreak that could cost $13 billion, $600 million to $20 billion, $800 million in the first year alone. You might be wondering, why can't we just hunt them into extinction? I mean, hunting works for deer populations, right? Here's the brutal truth. Feral swine reproduce faster than you can hunt them. A female feral hog has a GEECI. You might be wondering, why can't we just hunt them into extinction? I mean, hunting works for deer populations, right? Here's the brutal truth. Feral swine reproduce faster than you can hunt them. A female feral hog has a gestation period of just under 4 months. She can have 2 litters every year, with an average of 6 piglets per litter. Do the math. One sow can theoretically be responsible for dozens of offspring in just a couple of years. Their populations can literally double in as little as 4 months under the right conditions. And these aren't dumb animals. Feral swine are remarkably intelligent. They learn to avoid danger incredibly quickly. If you shoot at a sounder, that's what we call a family group of pigs. And you don't get them all. The survivors scatter and become what experts call trap shy. They associate that location with danger and will actively avoid it. Some studies have shown that traditional hunting and shooting methods, which might sound like the obvious solution, actually make the problem worse by scattering sounders and making future control efforts more difficult. So this brings us to what nobody saw coming. In 2014, when the feral swine crisis reached a tipping point, Congress appropriated funds to APPEASE to create the National Feral Swine Damage Management Program. This wasn't just another government initiative throwing money at a problem. This was a scientifically driven, coordinated national approach based on years of research about what actually works. And the results? They've been nothing short of remarkable. Since the program started, 12 states have been declared completely free of feral swine. We're talking about Colorado, Idaho, Iowa, Maryland, Michigan, Minnesota, New Jersey, New York, Vermont, Washington, Wisconsin, and most recently, Indiana. How did they do it? The secret isn't one magic bullet. It's an integrated approach using 5 specific control methods that target these animals' biology and behavior. Let me walk you through each one, because understanding these methods is understanding the future of feral swine management in America. Method number 1, and this is the game changer: whole sounder trapping. This technique is now recognized by APHIS and wildlife management agencies across the country as the single most effective method for controlling feral swine populations. Here's how it works. Traditional trapping methods, like those box traps you might see, they only catch a few pigs at a time. Maybe you get 1, maybe 2, maybe 3. But that leaves the rest of the sounder to learn that traps are dangerous. What whole sounder trapping does is capture the entire family group at once. The process starts with surveillance. Wildlife specialists use trail cameras to identify areas with high feral swine activity. They're looking for rooting, wallows, those mud holes where pigs cool off, mud rubs on trees, and heavily used trails. Once they've identified a good location, they start pre-baiting. This is critical. They put out feed, usually soured corn because it attracts pigs specifically and reduces the chances of catching non-target species like deer or turkey. The pigs find this food source and start visiting regularly. Here's where the patience comes in. Pre-baiting can take days or even weeks. The goal is to get the entire sounder comfortable with that location. Trail cameras are monitoring constantly, counting how many pigs are in the group, what sizes they are, and establishing their patterns. Only when the wildlife specialists are confident they know the whole sounder do they start building the trap. And they don't build it all at once. Modern whole sounder trapping often uses large corral-style traps that can be 8 to 10 feet in diameter or larger. These traps are built gradually, sometimes just adding a few panels a day, so the pigs don't get spooked. The pigs keep coming to feed, getting more and more comfortable with this structure around them. Finally, when the trap is complete, and trail cameras show that all members of the sounder are entering the trap confidently, that's when the gate gets triggered. The sophisticated systems today use remote monitoring and remote triggers. A specialist can be miles away, watching on their phone via cellular trail cameras, and when they see every single pig inside the trap, they trigger the gate remotely. The beauty of this system, it's all or nothing. Either you catch the whole sounder or you don't trigger the trap at all. This prevents the education problem that plagues other methods. Research has shown that whole sounder removal can reduce local feral pig populations by 53% after just 1 year, with populations remaining stable afterwards. Some operations have reported 70 to 90% population reduction in just 1 or 2 trapping cycles. Compare that to traditional control methods, which showed minimal population reduction in the same time periods. Method number 2, fencing and Fladry. Now, fencing might sound basic, but when you're dealing with animals that can root under standard fencing and are strong enough to break through weak barriers, you need specialized solutions. High-tensile electric fencing has proven effective for protecting specific high-value areas like agricultural fields during planting season. These fences use multiple strands of electrified wire at different heights, accounting for the fact that feral swine of different sizes will test the fence at different points. Fladry is even more interesting. It's a technique borrowed from wolf management. Fladry uses strips of brightly colored fabric, usually red or orange, attached to a rope or fence line. These strips flutter in the wind, and pigs instinctively avoid them. It's not a permanent solution because animals can eventually habituate to Fladry, but it's incredibly useful as a temporary barrier or to funnel pigs toward trap locations. The real power of fencing isn't necessarily keeping pigs out of entire properties, because that would be prohibitively expensive for most landowners. Instead, strategic fencing protects the most vulnerable or valuable areas, and when combined with other methods like trapping, it becomes part of that integrated approach. Method number 3, vaccination of livestock. This one surprises a lot of people because it's not about controlling the pig population directly. It's about protecting our domestic animals from the diseases that feral swine carry. APHIS and state veterinary services work with livestock producers to vaccinate cattle, domestic pigs, and other animals against diseases like pseudo-rabies and brucellosis. This creates a barrier that prevents disease transmission even when feral swine and domestic livestock come into contact. Think of it as building immunity in your livestock population. If a feral hog carrying brucellosis happens to contaminate a water source or feed area, vaccinated cattle are protected. This is especially critical in states where feral swine populations are high and complete eradication isn't feasible in the short term. Vaccination programs have been a key component of keeping disease outbreaks contained and preventing the kind of catastrophic livestock losses we've seen in other countries. Method number 4, ground removal operations. This is the boots-on-the-ground approach. Trained wildlife specialists conduct targeted removal operations using methods like shooting, snaring, and dog hunting. But here's the crucial difference from recreational hunting. These are strategic operations designed to complement trapping efforts. Ground removal operations typically happen after the main sounders have been trapped. They're targeting the stragglers, the lone boars that don't travel with sounders, or the few pigs that manage to avoid the traps. Wildlife services specialists are trained in pig behavior and use techniques that minimize the chances of educating remaining animals to avoid humans. Snaring, when done by professionals, can be highly effective for catching pigs that circle traps but won't enter. Dog hunting with specially trained tracking dogs helps locate pigs in thick cover where they hide during the day. And shooting, particularly at night using thermal imaging equipment, allows specialists to take out pigs without the survivors seeing where the threat came from. The key here is integration. Ground removal alone isn't enough. Studies have shown that trying to control feral swine populations, primarily through shooting, leads to scattered sounders and trap-shy animals. But when it's part of a comprehensive plan, starting with whole sounder trapping and finishing with ground removal, it's highly effective. Method number 5. And this is the one that really showcases how far we've come. Aerial removal operations. If you've never seen aerial gunning for feral swine, it's impressive. Helicopters, equipped with skilled shooters, fly over areas with high pig densities, particularly in open habitats like pine forests, agricultural fields, and coastal areas. The data on aerial operations is compelling. A study in Texas found that after one aerial operation, 31% of the initial feral swine population was removed. After 2 flights, 56%. After 3 flights, 67%. The number of pigs removed per hour ranged from 4 to nearly 24, depending on habitat conditions. Open habitat meant more efficient removal because the pigs had nowhere to hide. Now, aerial operations are expensive. You've got helicopter costs, fuel, pilot time, trained shooters. But when you factor in the alternative, the labor, the bait, the time spent on intensive trapping programs, aerial removal becomes cost-effective, especially in areas with high pig densities. USDA Wildlife Services has been successfully employing aerial operations across larger areas in multiple states, and the technique is expanding to more regions where habitat conditions allow for it. What makes aerial operations particularly valuable is speed. A ground-based trapping program might take weeks or months to reduce a population in a given area. Aerial operations can hit hard and fast, removing large numbers quickly before pigs have time to adapt or move to new areas. But here's what the media isn't telling you about all these methods. None of them work in isolation. The states that have successfully eliminated feral swine didn't just pick one technique and hope for the best. They used integrated damage management. That means combining multiple methods, adapting strategies based on local conditions, and maintaining constant surveillance to catch new invasions before they establish. Take Idaho as an example. They achieved eradication through rapid response. Anytime someone reported a feral swine sighting, Wildlife Services was there fast, using whatever method was most appropriate for that situation. Sometimes it was trapping, sometimes aerial operations, sometimes ground removal. The key was speed and coordination. And this coordination extends beyond just federal and state agencies. The National Feral Swine Damage Management Program works with local agencies, tribal governments, private organizations, universities, and individual landowners. There's a cost-share component where landowners can partner with wildlife services, getting access to expertise and resources they couldn't afford on their own. The Feral Swine Eradication and Control Pilot Program, funded by the 2018 Farm Bill, took this even further. It provided $75 million for pilot projects in states with the worst infestations, mostly across the Southeast. These projects had three components. APHIS handled feral swine removal using the methods we've discussed. The Natural Resources Conservation Service provided support for land restoration after the pigs were gone, and grants went to non-federal partners to help producers implement their own control measures. The results from these pilot programs were impressive. Over 6,700 landowners across approximately 7,300,000 acres in 12 states received direct feral swine control assistance. Participating landowners and researchers reported strong participation, operational success, and measurable reductions in crop and infrastructure damage. But here's the concerning part. That pilot program was temporary. It wasn't guaranteed continued funding beyond its initial authorization. When Congress passed a short-term extension in 2024, only programs with permanent funding authority were automatically carried forward. The Feral Swine Eradication and Control Pilot Program got left out. The House recently passed a reconciliation package that includes the program, but as of now, the Senate hasn't taken it up. This means one of the most successful federal programs for feral hog control is currently unfunded, even as populations in some states continue to grow. This brings us to the reality check. Despite over $100 million in federal funding, despite 12 states achieving eradication, despite all these proven methods, we've still got 6 to 9 million feral swine ravaging the American landscape. Why? Because this isn't a problem that can be solved once and forgotten. Feral swine don't respect state borders. A state that achieves eradication has to maintain vigilance because pigs from neighboring states can reinvade. Climate change is making things harder too. Warmer winter conditions mean more year-round food availability, which supports higher reproductive rates. Extreme weather events don't seem to negatively impact pig survival. If anything, they're adapting and thriving in changing conditions. And here's something that frustrates wildlife managers. Some people are working against eradication efforts. In some areas, there are businesses built around feral swine, hunting operations that charge people to hunt pigs, meat processing operations, even tourism. These economic interests can lead to the preservation or even translocation of feral swine populations. Moving pigs to new areas should be illegal everywhere, but enforcement is challenging.